Welcome to the AirCon Vault, recordings of the live streams from Airwiggle's audio conference. These are made free thanks to our sponsors: A Sound Effect, Game Audio Learning, Kilohertz, Audio Kinetic, Sound Cuts, Tsugi, Boom Library, Sound Warriors, and Airwiggles, the online home for audio people.
Let's go through everyone, and basically for anyone that doesn't know, say who you are, what you do, and your favourite project that you've worked on. Let's start with Ariel.
Oh man, that last one was unexpected, but okay. Yeah, you got me. My name's Ariel. I am the founder of Team Audio, currently audio director at Ghost Story Games. Before that, founded the Audio Mentoring Project, which Alyx was a part of. I can't remember if Juan or Duncan, you guys had something to do with that. Sorry if I'm leaving you out. Before that, worked in leadership roles at BioWare, and then before that at Volition. And then before that, worked at a company called Webfoot Games, making games for Game Boy Advance and DOS. And then before that, my mom taught me how to ride a bike. And then before that, I was a zygote. And then before that, I was in the inky black void of pre-birth. Okay, that's it. That's the whole thing.
Concise.
So, thank you. Oh, and my favorite game that I've worked on, yeah, it's like children. You can't choose a favorite. I do love the game I'm working on right now, which is called Judas. Go check it out if you'd like. There's a couple trailers.
Subtle plug.
Yeah,
Nice. Cool. Let's move on to Juan. If you want to introduce yourself and your favorite project.
Yeah, my name is Juan Uribe. I am currently a senior sound designer at Bungie. Before Bungie, I was worked with Ariel at Team Audio for almost 2 years, and I love that. It was a great time. And before that, I was at Microsoft working on the HoloLens. And before that, just freelancing for a lot of years, working on a bunch of film stuff and indie games and things like that. And I'm not going to go as far back as Ariel. I want to just leave it there. And favorite project, I mean, I got to say, like, we just shipped the final shape, which is doing really well. Our latest expansion on Destiny, and we're very happy with it. And it was a really fun project to work on, and there's a lot of cool stuff in there. So it's going to be that one. Just a lot of recency bias maybe, but it's a good one. So yeah, that's it for me.
Thank you so much. And last but not least, Duncan.
Hi, everybody. Team Audio. I mean, what a great name. It's a bit like calling your band the band, isn't it?
Yeah.
Bold. I'm Duncan. I am currently lead audio designer at Playground Games on the Fable project. This is my intern for the day, Oren. Say hello to everyone, Oren. He's hopefully not going to be sticking around for the whole stream. His mother should be home soon. My career started at Frontier Developments about 10 years ago, 12 years ago. And then I made various different games with them. And then moved over to Leamington Spa and to Playground Games a couple of years ago to work on Fable. I think my favourite game, apart from Fable, would definitely be Elite Dangerous. It was a very, very special time. And you never know the good times until you're out of them. Not to say that I'm not in a new period of good times now, but looking back on that game, it was just the team, the game, the vision, the hustle. It was just perfection. So, and I'm really proud of what we did for that title. Yeah, that's me.
Amazing. Thank you so much. And I just want to quickly ask everybody, probably in the same order we just did, whether you work remotely, hybrid, or on site, because it might affect how the leadership goes.
Yeah, Alyx, did you want to introduce yourself?
Oh yeah, I guess I should, just assuming everyone knows myself. My name's Alyx. I'm the founder of Silverscript Games, but I've worked in game audio for about 5 or 6 years. So I did a stint at Liquid Violet as post-production lead, which is a voiceover production studio in London. And so my biggest credits are things like Elden Ring and Final Fantasy, whatever, those kind of things. But I now run an indie studio after getting laid off in the mass layoffs of the last 2 years. So we're working on a game called The Quiet Things, which is my autobiography, which you can check out later if you're interested. So yeah, back to us, remote, hybrid, or on-site.
So Team Audio is fully remote. Before that, I worked in-house for a long time. Before that, I was remote, I guess, but that was so long ago. But yeah, fully remote at this point, although we do integrate kind of and try to feel like we're, part of the dev team.
I'll keep the order going, I guess. Right now I am fully remote by choice. We have the choice. I live not too far from Bungie, and I've been thinking about going hybrid, but it's been tricky right now because of having a dog and my wife being at work. So we're trying to figure that out. But I'm pretty happy remote. But I did start at Bungie in the studio before the pandemic started, and that was like some of I wish the pandemic wouldn't have happened. I think we all do. But yeah, being at Bungie, embedded with the team, embedded with all the disciplines, that was like absolutely amazing. I really miss that. And even right now, going back to the office, there's so many people that are remote that you really can't get that again, like just like the whole company being there. So you show up and there's a few people working and you say hi to some people in different days, but it's not quite having like the whole team and the whole different amounts of disciplines. But yeah, right now fully remote.
Oh yeah, that's me. Yeah, I'm in the studio 5 days a week, pretty much. We run a hybrid ship. Most people on the audio team are in 5 days a week. We're just commissioned to and sort of set up two fabulous new audio rooms in a new office space with 7.1.4 Atmos setups and like lovely lights up the walls and air conditioning and things like that. So I mean, I live 10 minutes walk from the studio. There's nowhere I'd rather be. I love the buzz of being on the shop floor as well. So yeah, in the studio for me.
It's so different being around people and then having to like work out all the body language and the communication over the internet is a whole different challenge, isn't it? But I wanted to start with a question to each of you of what does leadership mean to you in your role? Is it project leadership, company leadership, or purely people leadership? Because they can all be like quite different things. Let's go with Ariel again. Why not?
Oh man, I sense a trend here. Okay, girding myself. Leadership for me in my role is kind of all the things actually that you mentioned, because right now I am, the head of the company, Team Audio, but I'm also kind of assigned myself to a project. And so I'm directing, as an audio director, kind of creative audio director, and then some tech stuff as well. And then I do sort of have like some management type stuff. And, as far as what it means in a more heady sort of sense, I would say it's kind of across the board is really sort of understanding what people want out of their lives and then finding a way to connect the work that they do to that purpose. That was a weird way of putting it. Maybe another way to put it is like it's helping people to understand how the work they do matters and then contributes towards them growing into the people they want to be, I think. And that just kind of is a fractal down through all the stuff that I do. So
that fully makes sense, because it's like if you're not inspired by your work and how it connects to you as a person, you're probably not going to give as much as if it's just a job and you just turn up and do it, right? So that's what I got from that. It made sense.
Cool. All right.
Duncan, what about you? Is yours the same? Is it a bit of everything?
I guess so. We have a pretty awesome structure at Playground. I kind of look after my team and get the most out of my team. And then my boss sits above me and tries to make sure that other teams are getting the most out of other leaders are getting the most out of their team. So I just worry about the sound effects really. And I make sure that my guys are well equipped to do their job. They know what they're doing, and they have work that just really entertains them and inspires them. And then the rest of it kind of looks after itself. And that just plays into our broader goals as a studio, just to make a great game together. I do my bit, and I help other people do their bit by doing my bit really well.
Nice. And how is it for you, Juan?
For me, so I will preface by saying we are right at this moment, we're kind of restructuring teams a little bit, but up until now, what I do basically is a bit of both in terms of I lead the sandbox team, so like I was responsible for the entire aesthetic of the sandbox of Destiny, the weapons, the abilities, all of the UI, the MTX, and a team worked creatively under me, a team of 3, so 4 of us total, for which I kind of just mini directed like the sandbox of Destiny, like assigned tasks, approved sounds, and reviewed, managed the outsourcers and things like that. And and at the same time, I'm also a manager of 3 people. Like beside creatively managing, also managing like paperwork managing, if you want to say that. And at the same time, yeah, I'm doing a lot of sound design. I'm doing like a lot of the big stuff, all the big supers and abilities and the big exotic weapons and stuff like that, with the help of my team, of course, and which all do a lot of great work as well. But I do I think I do okay with the leadership part of it, but I do enjoy the sound design. I'm like a pure sound designer. If I could, I would just, it's just something that falls on you as you're kind of just growing the company, just kind of like you get given things to do, and it just makes sense. But if I could, I would just want to do sound design all day long. That's kind of like my main passion. But I'm happy with what I do. I love my team, and I love helping the team and the company. So, yeah.
Do you still get time to do hands-on stuff with your current role?
Oh yeah, I get tons of time to do hands up stuff. I mean, I have a lot of support. There's a lot of other team members and leadership above me as that, and producers. Then I rely on a lot. I just kind of, and I can delegate as well. All of my team is they're very good at what they do, and they're very easy to just delegate entire areas of things. And but as like I said, we are restructuring a little bit, and I am getting a lot more sound design time right now, which I really enjoy.
How important do you think it is, and this is for everyone as well, that leaders stay hands-on with the kind of discipline that they're leading on, or do you think that they should transition purely to like not doing it and only focusing on management?
It kind of depends on your organization, really. Depends how the rest of the company is set up. Like for me, I wouldn't ever want to not be a sound designer. There's always going to be a time when, say, we start up a new project and someone's making a sizzle video and it needs some direction. Who's going to do that sizzle video? That should be the audio director. It should be the lead, and they should have the skills to like absolutely nail that kind of thing. And to do that, you got to keep it up. You got to. It's like use it or lose it. It's not riding a bike. Like you got to stay up with all the plugins. Look for all those techniques on Twitter. Make sure you're relevant, and do all the DevOps as well.
I was going to say, I think it's super important if you what Duncan said. It kind of depends on what your goals are, or like what the project needs or what other people need. The way that I tend to look at it is what doesn't get done if I'm not doing it, right? So as a leader or a director or something like that, it's like, well, if there's not someone else doing this stuff, then I should do that stuff, which is stuff that maybe to me, it all kind of ties to accountability. Like who's accountable for what am I accountable for? And so got to prioritize the things that are kind of leady work or whatever. But at the same time, I think that there are consequences, let's say, to getting fully absorbed into no longer doing the work. You can get a little out of touch. I think it's possible to not do practical day-to-day sound design, music, voice, whatever, and still stay in touch. But I think it takes a lot of effort to do that in that way. And you also start pushing up against issues of, trust of your team, because you want to be able to, you want to be able to demonstrate it. I would say personally, I'm like, the amount of sound design I do is very, very relatively small, but I still do it. And it takes me a lot longer than, my team, but I like to stay in touch with it. And so, but I would say, along with that, I think a good principle for leadership is to try to always delegate the fun stuff. Like I'm more likely to work on stuff that's like no one wants to do, but then to take it and like really love it. So that's my answer.
That's probably the curse of leadership, of having to take the less fun jobs because you're the one that can do it, right? Yeah. How many years experience did each of you have either in the games industry or in audio before you found yourself in a leadership position? And do you think that there's a minimum that someone should have before they get into that place? Yeah. Ariel?
I was looking at Juan. I thought Juan was about to talk. Do
I
it,
don't
Juan.
know.
Sure.
Yeah?
I'll do it.
Go
Sure.
for it.
It was two-part. How many years do you have? Okay. So I've been in the industry for 10 years. Yeah, 10 years. And I guess I started any kind of leadership position, I would say, let's count back, about 4 years ago. So at the 6th year. But I will say it was one of those kind of like trial by fire kind of thing. Who I was working under, one of my favorite people and sound designers, who was the lead of the systems sandbox team at Destiny, moved to one of our other projects, which is now announced Marathon, to kind of just lead that project. And kind of I was basically kind of asked, we feel like you have the skills and we feel like you can do this, but it's your choice. And I was very like nervous because I was like, I feel like I'm not ready for this. But I said, I'm going to step up to it. I'm going to do it. I do have some experience with it. I've been working very closely with this person one-on-one for a chunk of time. I've come to understand how Destiny and the sandbox of Destiny works. I think I'm a good choice for it. So I chose to do it. I chose to step up to it, and I have to just really just learn a lot of things fast, and just kind of and get a lot of support from my team as well. And I just got thrown into it. I would say I started earlier than I should, but I think I did okay. And then from then, you just kind of like you accelerate your growth really fast, and then you start taking in reports, and then you start, people start looking to you for things, and you just learn by just doing it every single day. Uh, so around 6 years in is when I kind of started that position of leadership. What's the second part of the question? I forgot.
How many do you think would be a minimum before
Oh,
someone
okay.
is in that position?
So I guess that kind of answers the question. I don't think there's a minimum. I don't think it's like here's the amount of years minimum. Like I feel like some people could get there. Like the opportunity can present itself and you just step into it, kind of like I did. I think people could do it earlier than that. Like some people are just really good. They're just really good at what they do, and also really have a really good, mind for leadership. It's something that I personally had to just learn, kind of like do my best. Some people are just very good at it. I imagine Ariel has been leading for a long time. He has a knack for it. He's really good at it. Different people are different. So I don't think there's a minimum. I think it just comes with, some people just grow, they skyrocket, and you can identify that and just give them that opportunity. So I don't put a year number on it. I more of like identify the right person at the right time.
I'll tell you what's good for learning leadership is games that are live service games and games with long DLC trains, because you can work on the base game and then everyone else moves off and they leave just you. And I think when I started off as a principal, not as a principal, as a senior, I was just leading myself, but I was an audio team of one, so you don't have any of the management things. You don't have to approve anyone's holiday, but you are responsible, and you get some sort of training wheels, because actually with leadership, the hardest bit is people management. Like project management is great. There is Handsoft, there's Excel, there's Jira, there are spreadsheets, etc. There's no spreadsheet for like personal relationships, unless someone's made one and I don't know about it. But that's the hardest thing to do. And just having a sort of incubator environment of a long DLC train of say 3 years, major release every 6 months, minor release every 3 months, working occasionally with outsourcers and that kind of thing. Perhaps maybe the team needs to grow, and all of a sudden you've got over the hurdle of like, oh shit, how do I manage a project? And then the next challenge is, how do I manage a project and manage some people alongside it?
It's such a good question, Alyx. Did you come up with that, or was that from the people watching?
I came up with that all by myself.
No, it's a great question, because there's the time element, and a lot of people ask about that. I've seen it a lot. Like, how long should I expect before I'm senior? How long should I expect before I'm lead? And, you know, it depends on the needs. I mean, it's like if you're working on an indie game with your pals and you're the only person, well, then it'd be great if you could lead, you know. And if you're working in AAA, like, don't expect it anytime soon. And I think there's so many variables, and when people ask me that, not at Team Audio, okay, because that I do have sort of some control over, but not really. The bottom line is it's almost always not under your control. You know, someone else is going to designate you as you are the lead, you know, or you are the senior now. And so really it's like the best advice I can give is to learn who makes that decision, find that out. Okay. And then talk to them about it. Be like, okay, so what are the things I need to do to go from where I am today to where I need to be? And they might not even know, you know, a lot of the times that might be a designer or a creative director or a GM, or, you know, people who are like, I don't know, I'll know it when I see it. Right. So I think, like, if I were to give a blanket sort of like, how long should I expect before setting foot in a building, before I am now promoted, or whatever you want to call it, role promoted, or whatever it is, to a lead, couple years. Because here's the thing, I agree with everything that like Juan and Duncan said, but I will add one twist to it, which is that there is actually something about time in, and there's for better or worse, it's like you learn stuff just by simply working in game development over time, or hopefully you do. I mean, some people don't. But okay, set that aside. But generally, if you're paying attention and you're trying really hard, and you're like, you know, maybe later there will be a question about like sort of how do I practice leadership because I'm not a lead now and I want to be, or something like that. And we could talk about that sort of thing. But yeah, to me, I've seen it go many ways. I will say that time in is a thing, especially if you are actually putting it in. You know, it's like if you spend your time putting it in and you're getting it out, getting stuff out of it, then yeah, time in matters. But if, you know, to set people's expectations, I don't mind going out on a limb and being wrong, by the way, if I am. But it's like, yeah, a couple years at least before you should probably be a lead on a project. I don't know.
I don't think there's a right answer. It's just a case of like having experience in all areas of what you're going to be leading in. Because otherwise, if you're a few months in, you probably don't even know the team or the project or the game or whatever. So you can't possibly lead it. I think that's fair.
Yeah, or it'd be risky.
True. I mean, I'm sure some indie studios just set up and they're immediately a lead and you just roll with it. But everyone's learning at the same time in a lot of those situations.
Yeah,
I was going to ask everybody if leadership was something that you had like a natural aptitude for, or if it was something that you either got thrown into and then like slowly warmed to, or you kind of sort of found your way into it in a strange style. Like, was it a natural thing or a maybe slightly forced thing?
I'll jump first. I think maybe it's a mixture of the two. Like you either at Frontier, when I was going rising up the ranks, you either went to the sort of principal way and be like a super skilled expert, or you go this kind of leadership way. And I guess I would always tend towards the first one, and had to learn a bunch of new skills to do the second one. So yeah, sort of forced, because it's not my natural inclination. Like there's a sort of classic tendency of leaders to be quite extroverted, and I'm probably more of an introverted extrovert, and I need to kind of push those extroverted bits of my character to do the leadership thing, which is quite a lot of effort sometimes. And sometimes I think I'd rather not do that. But at the end of the day, the satisfaction of just like of helping people get shit done, it's big. Yeah.
I do think in audio as well, there's more of a tendency probably to be introverted, because ultimately we've got headphones on and we're focused. We're not necessarily socializing and talking with people all the time. So it might even make for a good leader that you're a little bit that way, because you probably relate to your team more in that sense as well. Maybe. Ariel, what about you?
Yeah, I mean, I think I think there are certain personality traits that sort of lend lend themselves to leadership roles. I think extroverted, yeah. I mean, you see that a lot. Although I'm the exact same way, Duncan. Like everyone thinks I'm an extrovert, but then they don't see what happens when I go home and just face plant and I'm like, I can't talk to anyone for like 2 hours. But yeah, I'm kind of the same way. And I think for me, what it was, I don't know, I did want it. So like when I started full time, right? Because there was this whole chunk of my life where I was just sort of like doing what I could and had a full time, had other jobs and scraping by contracts and this and whatever. But when I finally got a full time job, like it didn't take me terribly long to see problems that I wanted to solve. Maybe call it like a year in, I was like, there's all these things that I feel like we could make better, that I could help make better. And it looks like in this context, that means I need to be a lead, right? And so I was like, okay, so I want to do that for the good of myself and for the good of my colleagues and for the good of the company, the project, it just kind of expands out. And so, yeah, I mean, I've seen a lot of sort of people ambitiously pursuing leadership type roles for what I would call the wrong reasons, right? And maybe that was me. I don't know. Like, I don't think it was. I think I was actually I really generally just try to want to make things better. Starts with, I want to have a good day today. I want my friends to have a good day today. I want to ship something cool that matters. I want to look back and be like, this was something that was worth my time, my precious life, right? Only one I'm really guaranteed. That was what kind of motivated me. And I mean, it also was super hard to do. It didn't take me very long. It was a few years or something, and then I was leading a project. And then after that, I was kind of at a studio leadership position. But I mean, that symbiotically, I mean, they wanted me to do that. I was like, sure, I'll rise to the occasion. And it worked. I think I was sucky at it at the beginning of each different sort of step. But yeah, I think for me, the best motivator is just wanting to help. And so people who are sort of leaders that I would want to work with that have maybe a sort of like born with it sort of natural trait. I don't, that's a weird way to put it, but like people who genuinely want to help. If those are the kinds of leaders that I would like to have. So that's a personality trait I look for. And that's also a personality trait I would look for when assigning, trying to be like, okay, we've got a project and they need a lead. Who am I looking at my team? I'm like, well, I'm looking for people who want to help, and are willing to sort of take accountability in these sorts of things. So, yeah.
I think I was talking to Greg about this a while ago, actually, because we were looking at our like personality types, and we're quite similar in terms of being like the introverted, but like the advocate type, I think it's called, which is like people that just want to help other people, right? And I think would not be surprised if a lot of you fit into that as well, because that's probably what makes the best leaders. I don't know.
I'm the Machiavellian type. You? I say all this stuff, and then really I'm just manipulating everyone. Go ahead, Juan. Sorry.
Yeah. Oh, no worries. Yeah. The one thing I always feel is that as it gets, to making sounds and also to any kind of leadership, is like I always feel like I don't know what I'm doing, and so I just gotta do my best and check on people and make sure. I'm always like nervous that I'm like failing at some way, whether it's opening the door and just having no clue how to do a weapon, even though I've done hundreds, or like is any of the people that I lead or that report to me, like, am I leaving them behind in some way? So having that kind of like anxiety, I mean, it's not that it's like an anxiety, it's not a bad thing, but it's a thought that's always in my head that I'm like, I always feel that am I doing a good enough job? Am I doing okay? I always check on myself. I look at myself, and so that makes me check on my people as well. And that's one thing that I like to do from the get-go, from the very first moment I get a new report or whatever, is just really try to connect with them and communicate with them and just let them know we can talk about anything. You can tell me if I'm doing something wrong. Please tell me. It's a safe space here, and that's led to some really good things where like I might be pointed out like, hey, I feel like this thing was missing or something like that, and I'm like, oh my god, totally, I will, and just make them feel like safe. Don't make something feel like it's out of bounds. Or so that communication, I think, is huge. And I also learned a lot from other leaders around me, including the person that used to lead me. Learn from their style. But then our audio director has a different style, and they're totally different styles, a little bit more hands-on, a little bit more hands-off, and I see benefits in both. So I just kind of pick the things that fit my personality, that I feel like are effective. In each person does it differently, and I just kind of learn and grab what I feel like is effective, and then maybe inject some of my own style. But I do feel like it is going back to the other thing we're talking about, like just learning as you go. Just kind of like, it's always a learning thing. I'm always learning, and I'm always trying to improve. And it comes from kind of like introspection, but also from like the processes of the company. Like we have like reviews every 6 months and things like that, and feedback, and you get a lot from that. And Bungie's really good about that. People are really good about that. And also, I think I've just been very lucky, because my team, like the people I work with, are just insanely good. Shout out to all of my audio team, but like the team that I work closely with, they just kind of just run themselves. They just hit it out of the park with everything they do. They require very little. I've never had any kind of like big, terrible conflict, or like just like so maybe that's some experience that's yet to come, right? Like I've never had like just a completely
It's about to start right
field,
now.
like,
You know what, Juan? I disagree with everything that you're saying, and I feel like this is just not okay. No, I'm kidding.
I can ban people. I can't. On that kind of conversation, is there anything you do when you're first onboarding people or putting a new team together to help build that trust and safety and communication from the get-go? Like, do you have any recommendations for people on that?
I think weekly check-ins. I mean, we go for a walk around Leamington, go grab a coffee, walk around the park, and chit chat. It's ostensibly about work, but inevitably it's not just about work, is it? And that kind of like building that connection, building that rapport with somebody, and just giving them that space where if they know that they can come to me anytime, but there's this little half an hour every week where they can just unload a load of their problems onto me if they need to. That's very, very helpful. Gives them a load of structure. And then just sorry, Mike. I'm gonna have to attend to this.
Go, it's all good.
I'll pick up where you left off.
Go for it.
Yeah, that's also a great question, and super hard to answer, because really it's like, how do you make people trust you? So I think Duncan's exactly right. Like FaceTime and spending time talking to people, getting to know them. It's like, how would you get a friend to trust you? So, being accountable, and, doing what you say you're going to do, and, prioritizing them to some degree, giving and taking a little bit. I think that's really what it is. And like, I think, I think at the very beginning, I said something about this, which is like, the main thing really is, from my perspective, if you want to earn trust as a leader, is to demonstrate that you actually genuinely want to take someone, like understand what people want, like out of their lives, where they're headed, have no judgment about it, but just be like, okay, well, let me see. If you ultimately want this, then, it might take some time, but it's like, I want to help you get there, whatever it is that you ultimately want to do. And then you deliver on that. And if you can do that, and over time, you'll earn the trust. I don't think there's really a very, onboarding into a team or a project or something like that, I don't think there's really any hard and fast sort of like, you must do these sorts of things in order to guarantee that outcome. Because you can't really, we at Team Audio, we're basically like, look, we bring people in, we accept that we don't really know who that person is until probably about a year of working with them. You might get a glimpse earlier. Usually that's more like a glimpse of like, oh, this is not what this is not what we thought we were getting, right? But otherwise it takes a long time. And I think setting expectations too, that's another good, I would say maybe a best practice for a lead bringing someone into the new into their team, is to set the expectation that it's going to take some time, but that you're there for it. You're there, and not everyone feels this way. So this is one guy's opinion, but like, I think where everything has to come from is a place of genuinely wanting to help people achieve what they're trying to do in life, right? It goes beyond, Duncan hit on it perfectly. It goes beyond work. Because if it's all just work, I mean, I get that some people need that, but that's not how I look at it. It's really like, I want to help people, you know? So that's the angle I go at it with.
I think when, like, because I started doing mentoring to other people through Limit Break, which is a scheme we have in the UK, and at work, I applied like the same things that I did with that. And it's exactly what you're saying. It's not just about work, it's who you are as a person, or like what you want to achieve in your life and your career. And it doesn't matter if it's not even related to this job. Like, what can I give you in this role that might help further that so that you'll be interested in it? So it might be like someone's in a sound design role, but they really don't want to do music. That might be something. And then you can kind of like find a path for them to either change their mind or find the way that they can get what makes them tick in that role.
Yeah, people are generally, there's this, it's very complicated because some people don't want to blur the lines between work and personal, but I would suggest that it's like, that's impossible for me. Look, it's impossible for me. I spend 8 hours or more every day doing this. I could be, you know, if I, you know, instead of spending time with my family or the reasons why I do it, like, you know, it's kind of, to me, it reminds me of like better to have loved and lost than to never have loved at all sort of vibes, where it's like, look, you put it, I'm not trying to, you know, ever trying to like kick my way into someone's personal life, but how do you not have a connection between what you want to be and who you are personally? And so sometimes you got to kind of cross the Rubicon and be like, hey, as your leader at work, but I'm trying to help you fulfill sort of your life's goals here. And if we do that, then you can, I mean, the assumption is that you're going to get great results, better results. If people are actually engaged and they see the path they're going to take to be the person they want to be and do the things they want to do, you know, accounting for some flexibility there that shit changes and whatever, that leader, I mean, could probably get great results out of them too, which, you know, not to be all like, you know, bring it back to the project necessarily, but that's why we're here, right? So anyway, sorry.
I'll add a small thing. Yeah, I what Duncan mentioned, I really like that, and that's something we do as well, at least with our small team, systems team, where we would well, not anymore at this location, but we used to go get a burger at like a nearby Bungie, like a burger place, bring the new person in with the team for, you know, when they're brand new, they just joined, and just hang out with them. We already talked to them, we interviewed them, we had a good time, we asked about their favorite sounding game, we laughed. We already have a little bit of that, so it's like keep building on that and just bring them in, have a burger, don't even talk about work or anything, just like learn about them, bring them in. And yeah, I fully agree with Ariel and everyone else that, like, I think having those, maybe some people don't want that, but I haven't bumped into that yet, but like having that, being able to form that personal relationship and that, and beyond just the work stuff, and just kind of bond with these people, it's super important and leads to really effective and better just workers and better teams. And what was the other thing I was going to say? I had another point and I forgot it. Oh yeah, and the other point I was going to make is that something I found also from experience from one person is that I also like what I mentioned earlier. I like being open about how much I struggle with everything. Uh, Sometimes people might come in a little scared, like, oh God, okay, like maybe it's the first job, right, in a AAA company. Maybe they love the game and like they love Destiny, and now I'm working on Destiny, whatever it may be. There's that intimidation factor. So I really like to just tear down my walls and show them, like, I'm not some like entity that's just operating at max, you know, like here, just, you know, hitting hundreds or whatever, batting 100. My expressions. But I really just immediately let them know, like, I struggle so much at every point. I struggle with making sounds. I struggle with figuring out how to hook up a thing with Wise and the engine. I struggle with yeah, like knowing how to be a good leader. Like I tell them, like, I struggle and I just want to learn. And I just, if I kind of just bring this like fake kind of like thing that's like too much, that they just see as like this thing, I just tear it down and just bring it down. I'm like, we're just the same. I've been here for a little longer. We're the same. You can be here in no time. Like, let's just do our best and let's just work, and let's not worry about all these like things. That always helps a lot.
I like that. It's really nice to hear people being not, I don't know, dictators in their leadership roles. But do you all work quite democratically, or are there times where you have to be kind of a little bit autocratic about what needs to get done and when?
I'm definitely like a lead from the front, like telling people what to do kind of thing. I try not to micromanage, but I know what needs to get done. I know what I want. And sometimes the easiest way to get that is just to tell people what to do a bit. And I hope that that's okay.
That's okay. We're all friends.
Yeah, that just in experience, it's going to be like that at the end, right? Like I've shipped enough projects and been in those final like 6 months to a year or whatever to know that in that time period, it's when it's like get shit done time. There's nicey you can just like go out the window. You have a list of tasks they need to be done. No one wants to stay late. No one wants to work at the weekend. This game's got to go out, and a lot of that has to just do with ticking through your tasks in order, and just like doing what you're told, looking at what the priority of something is, making sure you're always working on the biggest fire, just that kind of stuff. And yeah, it just, yeah, my style kind of lends itself to that last 6 months. Yeah, I try and turn it off for the rest of the project.
Do you adjust that depending on who you're working with, and like how much of that like less nice approach people can take, or is it just let's get this done?
Well, that goes down to what Ariel was kind of saying before, which is just like managing expectations. Like those the two most important things. I think day to day you need to do are manage expectations and just build relationships. And as long as you're doing those two things, as long as everything you do kind of achieves that, you manage expectations of how you're going to be and how things are going to run, and then still manage to build relationships as well, and it's going to be a success.
The real dictatorship is the friends we made along the way. No, I was gonna say, I don't know. I think like it's a really great question that I think in context, it's great to ask it here because, you know, asking it in the context of a supervisory sort of relationship is way harder. You know, you don't hardly ever ask that. But I just wanted to mention that there is, to me, a difference between sort of like leadership and then authority. Right. So they're different things, but often they're sort of assumed to be intertwined. I don't know that they need to be, but authority, like my style is kind of like it's rare that I would put it to a vote. Like, cause that just seems like I'm basically being like, well, you know, someone else decide. I'm the director, but someone else decide. You're not going to take that. Design by consensus. We all know that's great, right? So, I mean, it's very rare. I think there are some things I might be like, can we get a show of hands? What do people think we should do? Especially if I'm like, I have no freaking idea what we should do here. And at this point, it's like, put it up to chance almost. But I would say that like the most important thing is, I don't view, for example, I don't view team audio as anything. It is a dictatorship. Right? Because if I say this must be what we do, then the only lever that the people who, you know, have contracts with me have to pull is quitting. Right. And so, but I respect that. Like, hey, if I'm saying do this and I try to be as transparent as possible and they don't want to do it, okay, well, you can quit. And, you know, vice versa, I guess. But I would say that what's most important about that sort of thing is the accountability. For me, it's like there's a period of any given thing where it's like input is wanted. So this is your chance to make your case. And then there are many times, like maybe not democratically, but there are many times where like, I'll have an idea and I'll be like, what does everyone else think? What do you think we should do? Someone else says something. I'm like, oh no, that's better than my idea. Let's do that. But at the end of the day, I will be accountable for that decision because like, as long as that's there, that makes it not toxic in my mind. If you have authority without accountability, horribly toxic. If you have accountability without authority, horribly toxic. So as long as those two things are always there and you demonstrate that and you actually genuinely, it's like, hey, even if it's the new person we're going with the new person's idea and then it's a huge failure and we all end up with egg on our face. That was my fit. That's me. I go, I was like, that was my decision. It wasn't theirs. Think that you could hide them away. I made that decision. I will suffer the consequences and meat shield that person so that, as long as that's there, then I think, yeah, I mean, I think, I guess viewing it as sort of like a dictatorship or an autocratic sort of thing. It's a good shorthand. I mean, it makes sense, right? But the accountability needs to be there, I guess, in my view.
I think ultimately you still have to steer the ship. You can't just have everyone off in their rowboats doing what they want. But I think it's like a link between making sure people have a voice and like autonomy over their work where appropriate, but also being like the final say on everything. Because if there's no person driving it, you'll go off course really quickly. And with games, it's time and like money, isn't it? So you're always at the mercy of like budgets and deadlines. So we don't always have that big creative space to play around in as we would like. What was my other question? Oh, how do you manage different personality types or communication styles at work? I guess some people said they didn't have as much big conflicts, but have you, Ariel and Duncan, had any big conflicts that you'd have to deal with? Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I've been on like training courses for these kinds of things, and I never really learned anything I didn't sort of already instinctively know. Just kind of try and treat people how I'd want to be treated, and managing conflicts like is very technical, and if conflicts do arise, it's the kind of thing that the HR department is for, and I would just lean on them. I just lean on them, lean on my manager. If it's a really bad thing, like personal issues within the team, people just hating each other or not getting along, like that's just above my pay grade, and I should seek help from somebody else who's an expert in that. I mean, if it's just conflict about like people being salty about their sounds not going into the game, then that's kind of on me, right? To manage their expectations and explain why things are a certain way. And if I do my job correctly, and they understand, then we can all just get back on the same page.
Ariel, what about you?
I mean, conflicts. I've had lots of conflicts. It's interesting, or been part of them, and been in them. It's usually because of people feeling really strongly, caring, right? And so for me personally, the way that I look at conflict is like, if I'm personally in a conflict with someone, it's probably because we both care, and I just keep trying to bring myself back to that spot where I'm like, look, this person's irritating me, or we're getting bickering, or we're getting temperatures getting hotter. It's like, I just need to kind of reset and be like, well, this wouldn't be happening if we both didn't care about this thing. So like, let's meet there and then start again, or whatever. I also, Duncan, I've also taken a few, let's say publisher or dev sponsored, leadership training and conflict resolution courses. They're kind of fun and funny to me. There was this one that was called Crucial Conversations, and it's almost like they really leaned into like the corniness of it. But there was a few interesting nuggets there, I would say. But I think managing people, the original question, something about basically how do you account for different personality types? I think it's I don't know how it's not a requirement. Like you have to, these are human beings that are extremely complex, right? Like a person that comes from who knows what, like background, these people could be, silver spoon, or they could be abused growing, there's so many different backgrounds that these people could be coming from. And so I always try to be as understanding as possible. At the end of the day, we have a job to do, which allows us to work together in the first place. So the job is important, like getting the thing done. But managing people as individuals it's harder. There's no real like one size fits all approach in my mind. You can't apply the exact same principles to every single person, but it takes more effort. You have to get to know them. You have to maybe set some boundaries where it's like, I understand that you are like this, but I can't go past here, or whatever is this boundary setting. But that can lead to conflicts. And yeah, I mean, Duncan's right. I mean, sometimes you have to lean on basically the legal / HR arm of a company to make sure that you don't do something that's exposing anyone to lawsuits or whatever, and make sure that you're not breaking laws and things like that. But at the more day-to-day level, it's like my role often is more likely to be mediating two people that have a conflict. if people have conflicts with me, I think at this point, at least at Team Audio, maybe not, maybe it takes a little while to get there, but I sense that no one really has much of a struggle to tell me what they really think, especially about decisions that I've made or my personality quirks, you know, or whatever. So conflict is unavoidable though. Because if you don't have conflict, then to me, that's a sign of either, 100% alignment. Does that mean that no one thinks that there's a better way to do something? Spooky, but, maybe pleasant. I don't know.
I think
maybe they're just too scared to say anything.
It's that dictatorship, isn't it?
Yeah.
On that kind of with teams and communication, especially with the next generation, how do you make sure that you're always holding the door open without because I think nowadays, especially with all the layoffs, there's a bit of a temptation to maybe gatekeep skills or roles, potentially even in leadership, because if you don't have a job, you're out, and so you want to kind of keep that safe a little bit. I was never like that until I got laid off, and then I thought, shit, I should have not taught people how to do my job because I've been replaced by cheap juniors or something. I don't know if you've experienced anything like that, or if you feel that in leadership, if you might have someone coming up in the company who could potentially replace you, or is it a much better work environment than that?
Oh man, there should be someone coming up in the company who can replace you, because we're like hermit crabs, right? When we've become too big for our shell, we take the bigger shell that's above us. That's how a company organization should go. And then you leave your shell to somebody else. So you need to be training somebody to replace you. That is the most important thing. With when you're dealing with your more senior members of staff who are your managers. You're training them up to replace you. That is 100% what I'm doing all the time, and I would never even entertain for a second not doing that, because I would hope that my manager is training me up to replace them.
I fully had a manager who wouldn't teach me stuff that I was really interested in because he didn't want anyone to replace him, and he's probably still like that. So it's a bit sad, but I'm glad that you guys aren't like that.
Well, no one said I wasn't like that.
Okay, apart from you.
No, I actually think that it's really, really complicated. I've worked at places where I look up and I'm like, well, this person's going to have to die. So I have nowhere to go. So that does make me restless. And that did make me look for jobs. So there's that. I agreed with Duncan 100%. You should have a succession plan. It seems like really, it seems like folly. And maybe it's also, I don't want to speak for an entire nation, okay, but I'm about to, which is that I feel like there's this sort of American vibe of let the best person win, right? And I actually do believe that. It's look, if I train someone up and they take my job and I'm fired, well, shit, that just happened, I guess. But I would rather that than basically feel like I'm not. Yeah, I guess there's values discussions about that. How much does a person want to actually, keep moving up or whatever? I mean, is it okay if let's say a studio audio director is I'm so happy here and it supports my family and this is the best, and they're a great person and this is the best job I've ever had and I want to stay doing this forever, yet they're blocking someone from being that? Is that okay? I don't know. It's kind of, it's a really complex thing in my mind. And, it's eventually it's well, what is a person got to rise up until they're the founder of the company? I have to keep going up until I'm the CEO of Electronic Arts. At some point it's all right, well, you might have to go somewhere else to get the thing you're looking for, which actually was a question I think I read in a thread for this at some point. Is how do I kind of get from where I am today to a leadership role somewhere else? Because almost exactly what you're describing, which is tricky. So
I think the question was about when there's nowhere else to go in the company you're at, how do you transition to a leadership role somewhere else? But you haven't had that leadership experience in the current company. I don't know.
Part of that's working out how you sell yourself in an interview. It's really hard to test for leadership skills in an interview, but I mean, if you can work out what the sales pitch is from you moving from X role to a slightly higher up rung, then I don't see why you can't just jump straight into a leadership role. Yeah, it's going to be tricky while you like learn on the job, but like every single manager who moves to a different company is going to be learning on the job. Like no one knows what they're doing. We might know how to make like a sub drop or something, or design a machine gun. There's like a blueprint for that, but no one knows the other stuff. When you move to another company, it's all alien, and you've just got to learn on the job.
I feel like all companies are different from what I've seen, and they're all companies at the end of the day. They all will have like just something about it, something tricky that you have to kind of navigate. Personally, I love my team, and I will, like Ariel was saying, but not to that extent. If they're gonna rise above me and like muscle me out, like I will leapfrog. Like if they're just doing that good of a job, and it's not just like some politics game or something, which that doesn't happen with my team. If they're just doing that, like, oh my god, yeah, like, and I have no interest in being like an audio director or like a full-blown lead that doesn't do sound design. My interest is more in the what is called principal sound designer, or I don't know, some other companies call it something else. uh, and I'm okay with having some of that kind of like manager leadership role that I just, it's something that helps offset some of the needs of the team. But I fight for my people. Like I I know where they want to go, I see where they want to go, and I will fight for them, and I present for them to leadership and do whatever I need to do to make them rise to whatever they want to get to. Whether that's they're competing with me for something, I don't care. Like if they're doing what they're doing and they're just being really good at it, then that's where they need to go, and I will fight for them. And regardless, I think that from what we've seen in the past year and longer in companies, I don't feel like there's any safety no matter what. If you're going to be laid off, it's going to be for whatever reason. Like I always had thoughts before that like maybe I should learn these skills, and maybe I should rise to this, and maybe I should take more of this and become a manager, and like that would protect me. Like they're going to look at me and be like, we can't, like I've seen that firsthand. That's not gonna, nothing's gonna protect you. Sometimes it doesn't even make sense. So that made me pull back from like, I'm gonna do all these extra things just to create extra safety, and then maybe stress out. Like I'm like, no, I don't think I feel safe anywhere, like in this a day and age of at least. I don't know how it, I'm curious how Ariel feels about like running an outsourcing company versus what it is to be a AAA company, where like no one is safe. Like you could be Riot or Epic and have billions of dollars, and you're not safe. So like where's the safety? So at that point, and then I just focus on like me and my team, and like and where we want to go, and like do our best and just hope. And yeah, and then just, yeah, I guess that's the end of my thought.
If I were to give like a single piece of advice to someone who says like, I'm stuck and I want to be a lead over there, it would be to surround yourself like physically and digitally, however you can, with other leaders that you respect, and like communicate them with as much as you can. Because if you can become like a known entity to other leaders that you want to be like, and try to make friends with them, you're going to be judged by the company that you keep, and you're also going to build trust with those leaders. And leaders beget leaders. It's like leaders coming out of leaders coming out of leaders. Because really, it's like these are people that talk, and you want to be trusted. There's a ton of like tactical stuff you could probably do, and whoever wrote that question, you can reach out. But just to the safety remark, Juan, like we say all the time when we have all hands, this is like kind of radical transparency or whatever. It's like there's no safety anywhere. You get like there's no safety at Team Audio, but because I mean, what I can guarantee that like a client isn't going to have a publisher that all the sudden shuts them down, or that they're going to decide, oh, I want to go with this other group, and we're just going to pull the lever and eject you out of the building. We're actually, contractors are like eminently cuttable. It's like way easier to fire a contractor than it is to fire an employee. That said, the safety that we tell this to Team Audio, we're not going to lie about that. It's like there are things out of our control, but the safety is really in who have you used this experience here to build deep relationships? That's it. Because at the end of the day, it's like people think of companies as like these. I feel like when you say it's like you say company's name, they think of like a building and then like a project or something. It's like it's all just people. So who have you built trust with? That's your safety net. So at Team Audio, the thing that we try to say is like, your safety net really is us. It's like, hey, if someone at Team Audio loses a project, like I'm going to do everything I possibly can to get them to land on their feet, ideally with us. I mean, because that's how we make money, by the way. As a dev or a publisher, an audio person is a cost. At Team Audio, an audio person is a revenue source. So like it is in my best interest to get work for these people, me. But then on top of that, it's like, I love these people. I would do anything for my team. And that we're very kind of intense and exclusive about take our hiring very seriously, look for very specific qualities, and then bring people in very slowly in a very trepidation, whatever. But I care about people, but there's no safety. And anyone that I don't know, anyone that's trying to say that like this is safer than that is safer than this, like here's your job security in the game industry. Come on, like doesn't pass the sniff test. Don't believe it. Anyone that's listening today, don't believe it. You make your own safety. Build great relationships with people that will look out for you when shit hits the fan. That's the best you can do. And don't rely on anything else. It's up to you to make those friendships so that when shit hits the fan, they're there for you. So sorry. End soapbox.
I think I might wrap it on that note if you're happy with that and no one's got anything pressing to add, since we're slightly over time, and I feel like that was a nice end note. So I just want to thank you all very much for your time and for everyone in the chat for attending. It's been a really awesome session. I feel like I've learned a lot and had a lot of like good conversation. So much appreciated.
Hey, thank you, Alyx. You're amazing. And it was great seeing you guys, meeting you, Duncan.
Great
Thank
questions.
you so much. Yeah,
great to meet you as well.
Super fun.
Thanks, Greg and Lewis.
Yeah, Greg and Lewis, thank you.
Yeah.
Big up AirCon.
Awesome job.
Bye.
Right. Thank you so much, everyone. Thank you. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.